Okay, so Brent's coming in. Episode 3. Why is it titled what it's titled? Slate. Take one. That was a double slate.
Oh, Ken, that slate was totally mediocre. But
you know what? I have other talents.
Yeah. Name them in order. No, okay. That's on another episode. Well, let's find some talents that Ken has.
There are some. I'm great with laundry. My wife will vouch for that. That may be number one in her book.
Number one, number two in her book. All of them. All the numbers.
I clean a lot. I guess
that's good. That's good to clean. Good job on that. Yeah. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Way to do that.
And I want to say thanks for joining us again. And if you haven't heard the first two, go back. We learned a lot, and you're on the journey with us. So thanks for being on the journey.
That's right. I
learned that on the podcast video portion, I know a lot of people are just listening to it, but I have a tremendously large forehead.
Here's what's crazy about that. The rest of us already knew that.
Exactly.
You don't have to go back and look at it.
Tell me this?
I'm just sitting beside you, and I'm like, wow. I'm just kidding. It's not that big.
Can we rent you for drive-in movies? We just want to show a movie right there.
Well, it's not that. It's the it reflects the light. To reflect the light.
And they couldn't see you squinting as you said that. So that's great. Yeah.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Every Day's a Bonus with Kenn Kington. I am your host, Brent MOXEY. And yes, if you haven't watched one of the last couple, go back and take a listen, take a watch if you're one of our viewers, or if you're squinting right now, maybe
just radio's good.
Maybe a radio voice, face for radio, right?
And for those of you who don't know anything about it, we're basically doing like a car ride version of just something you can laugh a little, learn a little, and just be encouraged.
Have some conversations about life. You've been around the block a time or two, and you've learned some things as you've been on your comedy tours or at home with your family or taking your kids to college, right? We all learn things. As long as we keep our eyeballs open, God's going to teach us something. We're going to learn something in this. And so for you're going to be teaching us every week something that you've learned in life.
That's it. I'm basically passing on lessons, and I'll pile on to that too, because I've been around some of the most successful people in hundreds of arenas, sports and business and parenting and life, and just gleaning from them. And I usually take like, man, that was really good. We take it and we'll be sharing all those. So it's a literal potpourri of life lessons that help immediately.
I remember you and I were having breakfast a number of months ago at this point, and you were saying something along the lines of however many people die every day or something. And I was like, wow, what a great, I can't wait to talk about this with Ken, right? But one of the things I took away, you said, but all the knowledge that they don't get out of here put either down on paper or that they tell somebody about or record or put a video, all that dies with them, right?
Right.
And so you thought to yourself, I don't want this information to go down with me. I've learned some things and I want to teach and tell. Is that right?
Well, it's just pass it on.
Yeah.
And and in that same kind of genre, my daughter's a cancer survivor. We'll talk about that another time. But I actually went to a funeral where the dad of one of her friends did the funeral, and it was just a somber moment. But he said something that just, nailed me between the eyes. He's given this eulogy, and he says, a lot of people say that my little girl passed away, and I'm here to tell you she did not. And I'm thinking, okay, she's, there's the casket and it's a little morbid, but I mean, he's getting to do it. And he says, she passed on. And he went through this litany of, every time she went to the hospital, she passed on hope to all her friends.
That's good.
When she met with the doctors and the nurses, she passed on joy that was so far beyond her physical encounter. And she passed on love to just all the friends. I was just like, wow. And what really hit me between the eyes was, am I just passing through and passing away, or am I passing on?
Man, that's
good.
And
what am I passing on? So you nailed it.
We could almost have a whole podcast just on that, couldn't we? It's not even our subject today. But
absolutely. Well, it kind of is.
Okay.
It's where it all started.
Well, let's figure this out a little bit, right?
Okay.
You have learned stories in life, and so you're taking these stories and passing them along, right, to our audience.
Yes.
So what is our big story today? What are you going to teach us today that you've learned in life? Let's just get to that right now.
Well, I'm going to even go take a step back and say teach is too strong. Share. I'm going to share
good.
another
Sharing
story.
is caring.
And it's really where the title of the podcast came from.
Yeah. You teased this.
I know a couple
weeks ago, and you said, I'm not going to tell you where the title came from, but now we're ready.
Episode
Everybody,
3.
turn your radios up, get your AirPods tuned in, because we're about to find out why it's called Every Day's a Blessing.
Every day's a bonus.
Every day's a bonus.
But that's okay. You're
Every day's a blessing and a bonus. Let's change the title. It's time to add more words to the title, Ken. Yeah, every day's a bonus.
Every day's a bonus. And I wish I'd have done the math, but 7 years and about 5 months ago, my physical heart stopped for over 2 hours. And I'm still alive to tell about it. So it's like, okay, what is that about? And I'll give you a brief background to what happened. When I'm on the road and I'm on tour for 3 or 4 days, I come home and I'm just fatigued. I'm tired. And it usually takes about a day and a half to, back to normal. And I was starting to feel fatigued, and I hadn't been on tour. And I'd go on and come home, and I never got over the fatigue. And that's the only symptom that I had. And so we're out at dinner with a friend of ours, and he's my doctor, and I'll call him Ryan because that's his name. And Ryan, I said, dude, can I come by? You run some tests. I know I've got an appointment in January, and it's October, but I'm just feeling run down. I can't put a finger on it. He says, yeah, come on by. I ran some tests, and he said, yeah, the test, everything looks normal. You're old. That's what it is. And I'm like, all right. He said, but there's this one test we can do. It's a calcification scan, full body scan, and you do not qualify. There's 10 qualifications. You don't have any of them.
Okay.
But I'll prescribe it if you want. It costs about $100. I'm like, let's do it. I'm like, $100, peace of mind. That's what I want. They do the scan. I'm in Alabama, Samford University, about to do a sold out show. And I'm in the wings, and he calls me on a Friday night, and I'm like, hey, man, what's happening? He goes, I got your test result back. You got a minute? And I said, well, I got 3 minutes because I'm about to walk on stage. And he says, well, you remember how I told you 0 to 20 is the range? 0 is really good, 20 is really bad, and somewhere in the middle is where you want to be. And I was like, okay. And he goes, so what was my number? And he says, well, your number was 697.
Wow.
And I'm like, I literally said, so I'm dead and I don't know it? Yeah. And he's like, well, let me read you the comments from the lab. And it says, this heart is in the bottom 2% of all hearts. A cardiac episode is imminent.
Wow.
Now try to go be funny after that.
Yeah.
Right. So I do my set. I get on the tour bus and I just lay down. The road manager comes in and goes, man, you okay? And I'm like, man, I just got some really crappy news.
Yeah.
And I'd asked Ryan, I said, do I need to go to the ER? What is the deal? He goes, no, just see a cardiologist when you get back. And so I go to the cardiologist, he runs some tests, and he's like, man, this doesn't make sense. I want to do a cath. I want to go and take a look at your heart. And so I did a treadmill thing. He does the echo, and that came back horrible. The next day, he goes in, puts a cath in my heart, and wakes me up. 25, 30 minutes after he starts, I go under, and he's like, man, there's nothing I can do. And I'm like, there's nothing you can do or nothing you need to do. Fast forward a couple minutes, he says, Ken, you're going to the CCU right now. You're on an emergency list to have open heart surgery. Now, I'd worked out that morning, did my normal 3-mile run, my workout, and now I'm laying in a bed in a CCU. And that night, I didn't know this, but the thoracic surgeon came into my wife and said, his arteries are so clogged. And she said, what do you mean? He said, all 4 of his major arteries are over 99% blocked.
Wow.
Now, if you're not familiar with heart, if you have one artery with an 80% blockage, you have a heart attack. And she says, how is that possible? And the doctor says, I don't know how his heart's beating right now.
Wow.
I can't tell you he's going to make it to the surgery tomorrow, much less through it. He's got about a 50-50 shot. And I'd gotten word that day, get your affairs in order. And I did. That's just kind of a wake-up call, right?
Wow,
and
absolutely.
And you're going into this thinking, and I really feel fortunate that I had that moment where I'm about to close my eyes and I got a 50-50 shot of I'm done on this side.
Yeah.
And I got to process that.
Wow.
And it was what I learned through that process that is really foundational.
Okay.
And I'll share those in a minute. But what really...
Now, before you get to that,
yeah,
I don't want to do a spoiler alert.
no.
Did you make it?
Because there's a lot of people listening going, what's happening? Yeah, good news. I made it.
Made it. Okay.
Okay.
I was on pins and needles there. Everybody watching, everybody listening.
Why is this microphone all of a sudden silent?
Now I can go ahead and I can accept the rest of the story now that I know the outcome. Thank you, Ken.
That's
All right.
fantastic.
Continue on. Yeah.
So you always have a follow-up appointment 2 weeks after open heart surgery. So I'm sitting there with a thoracic surgeon, and I'll never forget that conversation. All his staff always gave him a hard time about not having good bedside manner.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you as an open heart patient, you don't really care. I don't care if you're a nice guy. Can you fix this?
Yeah.
And he's sitting at his desk. He said, Ken, I did something I've never done before. I had your chest cracked open, and I stopped. And I looked at my team, and I asked, why is that heart beating? He said, Ken, there's no reason you should be alive. He said, I looked at that. You should have had a massive heart attack 6 or 8 months ago, and there's no way you would have survived it.
Wow.
He said, you need to treat every day like it's a bonus, because for you, it is.
Wow.
And I can tell you with all honesty, every day I wake up, I'm like, okay, I got one more day. Nobody's promised tomorrow, but man, getting to go through that process,
Sure.
like, not only are you not promised today, you got a 50-50 shot. You're not making it to tomorrow. And I just, as the next month or two went on, I gleaned 3 pieces that made all the difference in the world, and 2 big ones. And the first one was just that, man, I've got to have some belief bigger than myself, bigger than what I can control. And one of the realizations that I had that foundation was that day before the surgery, my wife had put out on social media, hey, Ken's having open heart surgery. Thousands of people are going, hey, man, are you kidding? And all these different ones. And most people are like, hey, we're praying for you, which gave me great comfort. But what caught me off guard was there's like 3 people who went, hey, we're thinking about you.
Yeah.
And I lost all political correctness, which I feel obligated and free to do in that situation. And I texted them back. I said, hey, think about me later. Go ahead and pray for me now. I don't care if you're an atheist. Pray for me now.
I love that.
I didn't want to stand in front of Jesus and him go, hey, I'm really sorry. Nobody asked. You know?
Yeah. But a lot of people thought. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted him going, yeah, enough. I heard, I get it. Okay, I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to understand how all of prayer works. I just know that it does. And I've been through enough, and I won't go into great detail, but that was huge.
Right.
And people had shared with me some verses that I ended up reading that morning to where I can't describe it. I think there's even a verse that says that the peace of God that passes comprehension will guard your heart and mind. And I remember reading that verse going, wow. And I'm rolling into the OR, and my wife has kissed me for what could be the last time. And Brent, I can't tell you other than I had total peace. I could be sitting on a beach with a glass of iced tea watching a sunset, and I could not have been more relaxed.
Wow.
And I know a lot of people would think, man, I'd be panicked, anxious. I'm just chill.
Yeah.
Because I know, because of the relationship I have with God and the truth that I'd learned over time, man, I can't lose.
Yeah.
I can't lose. If I make it, great. If I don't, great. I get to start eternity, and it's going to be better. I get a new body. And so all that's going through my mind.
Yeah.
And the other piece that I really, really grabbed onto at a new level was that people matter. And I've heard that, we're supposed to help the poor, the less fortunate. Sure. You do it to the least of these. And I love doing that. But what I didn't realize till that moment was that every one of us in some category in life is going to be the least of these at some point. And I was the least of these. I couldn't help. I lost work. I lost a ton. And the people that came around and did everything from driving me to events because I couldn't drive for a few months to just meals to my wife came in, and this is just I'll land on this point, but just I was going through my mind that particular month was going to be the best month in my 28-year career at that point.
Yeah.
And I lost everything.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, I hadn't talked to anybody, and I'm sitting there just going, and I'm kind of praying. I'm like, Lord, thank you that they found this, that, they're going to try to fix it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie to you, Lord. I'm really bummed.
Yeah.
And there was this one event that I'd worked on for 2.5 years, and it was that month, and I had to just let it go. And I had that amount in my mind. It was in my mind. My wife walks around. I have not talked to anybody. And she said, wow, this is really neat. I said, what? And this is 7+ years ago. She goes, somebody started a GoFundMe for you. And I was like, what's a GoFundMe? And she goes, no, fund me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, well, it's just a place where people can contribute and help out with expenses when you go through something traumatic. I'm like, oh, okay. And she goes, look, she held her phone up to me. The first amount on there was a very large amount for the exact amount of that event that I was going to lose.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's neat.
And I was so humble. I just went, Lord, okay, you got this. And it's moments like that where people talk about faith or whatever, but for me, it's a very intimate, personal relationship.
Right.
And I won't go too far into that, but that's where that came from, to where now every day I literally open my eyes, I look for something that looks like heaven, and if it's not there, I'm like, all right, Lord, I get heaven on earth one more day, and thanks for another day.
So really the doctor came up with it. That wasn't even you. Your doctor is the one that gave.
Absolutely. Thoracic surgeon.
Man, I tried to change it to every day is a blessing, and I apologize.
Not let you do it.
I'm not a doctor.
Until you save my life.
Time's coming. Time's coming on there. Okay, so one of the things I took away, and I know we're going to try to land this plane here for our audience, because some people might be getting to work, getting to the gym, done at the gym, whatever that looks like for you guys out there. I love that you didn't shy away from the fact that this was a faith journey. Right? Because it's very easy to say that, a professional athlete or a movie star gets an award or whatever. It's very easy to say, I want to thank God, and then we move on, right? Yeah. But what I heard in your voice, what I heard from your story was a peace that can't be explained from anything else, a belief you have in the name of Jesus, right? Yeah. And I know this podcast is not meant to preach and to just point it all, but when it's a part of your life, you can't help but talk about it. You can't help but say, man, he gave me a peace that I don't even understand. And this prayer thing, it's not just I'm thinking of you, it's a prayer thing. It's turning the heart of God towards someone who's suffering and in pain and going through that. Yeah. So
and like I said,
thank you for not shying away from that.
But And God answers some prayers some ways, and it's not a wish list. It's not a vending machine. I've had plenty of times where I've asked, and I have no idea why things happen the way they do.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is that it is, for me, a very intimate relationship. And you're going to hear me on this podcast talk about my kids, my wife, and God's the same category. I mean, literally, I know him personally. So if you want me to pray for you, you can send me a prayer request. I'm glad to do it.
Ken asks, here's his personal cell phone number. Okay, we'll share that later. I'll.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a part of it. But man, I guess my main takeaway is twofold. One, that when we go through a hard time, one of two results is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it really is up to us to decide which one is going to happen. I asked the doctor, I'm like, okay, what do I need to change? I mean, what do I need to change? I'm working out 5 days a week. I'm eating healthy. I'm doing this. And yet I got a clogged up heart. And I love what he said. He said, you know what, Ken, we talked at our staff meeting, and you're in better shape than everybody here. And you know what? You won the genetic crap lottery.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, at that point, I can either get bitter and go, why me? Look at that person over there who's eating deep fried cheese balls and never worked out a day in his life, and he's fine. Well, one, he's not fine, but or I can get better and just go, you know what? I got another chance. I'm moving forward. I'm going to deal with what I got.
Yeah.
do the best I can, but I'm not going to live bitter.
I love that.
And that's probably the biggest takeaway. So when people go through a tough time, just ask yourself, am I getting bitter or am I getting better? And one of the components is we don't have control. Right. I didn't have any control over any of that. But I'm not going to let that get to me.
And imagine if we lived every day waking up just like it's a bonus, right? That's good. Well, let's land things for now.
Okay.
And they've got to come back next week to check out episode number 4,
which is going to be fantastic.
We don't want to give away anything. Don't even say a thing.
I won't.
Just be quiet. Just going forward, let's be silent.
Okay, I'm now silent. I'm no longer talking.
But I hear you. I can hear you right now in my ear, in my headphones that I don't have. Well, guys, right there you have it. We get to hear the story of Kenn not talking anymore, but of a peace that surpasses anything you could possibly understand. And we get why every day is a bonus for him and how we should all live every day as it is a bonus. But we're going to say goodbye to you guys right now, and we will see you right back here, same time, same channel next week. Say goodbye, Kenn.
Goodbye, Kenn. That's the last thing I said.
See you next time. Bye, guys.